Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them, and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Season's greetings to you, Mel.
Greetings.
The holidays are upon us. Here they are.
Yep, we're right in the thick of it.
Yes, we are. So today we wanted to talk to the supporters of grievers because often they want to know how to help and they don't know how. So we hope that the people who are grieving will feel comfortable maybe sharing this information, or somehow it can get to them so that they can be on your team and supporting you during these holiday festivities.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about number one. It is perfectly normal for a griever to not know what they want or how you can help them. I have been like this. People were like, how can I help you? And I'm like, I don't know. If you think of something, can you just do it?
Yeah. And it could change too. It might be like, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. Like, and it's so hard to go through the holiday seasons. Nothing is going to make it better. So, and if you're a griever, just know that it's normal to not know how to solve and fix it, because you can't. So you don't need to feel like if you don't know, then you're failing somehow. And if you're supporting somebody who's grieving and they don't know, it's normal.
You know that saying, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not know what you need.
Yeah. And this is all just a big, weird experiment. So just, it's like a lot of trial and error.
Exactly. Number two, Anita.
So the second suggestion we have is to offer specific help. So don't just say, if there's anything I can do, let me know, but instead give them a few options. And again, don't be surprised if they don't know what help they need, or also don't be offended if they say no, thank you, because that might happen. And the important thing is the offer, and the offer of specific help. So some things that have been helpful to me in the past have been things like bringing over a meal, or even better, a DoorDash gift card, or helping me to wrap Christmas presents, or watching my kids so I can go Christmas shopping, or saying, hey, I'm at the store. Is there anything I can grab for you? Those are some things that have been specifically helpful for me and that I have taken people up when they have offered. Do you have any, Mel, that you'd like to share?
I do. Yeah. And my situation is different from Anita's because I don't have kids, and of course did not have kids right after Scott died. And he died right before the holiday season. So nice of him. Thanks, Scott. And I was just so broken that I couldn't even think of what to do. And so when people decided for me, for example, oh, we're going to go over to Mel's and set up her tree. We're going to put the ornaments on. We're going to put the lights on. It really made my space really bright and cheery and happy. And I didn't have to do it. Because do you think that I was going to put any energy into doing that? No. Grief is exhausting. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Even at the very beginning, when you're going through grief, you don't realize just how exhausting it will be. So if you think of something like that, like decorating, or of course, meals, some of my friends sent pre-made meals that I could put in the freezer because I lost my appetite and I didn't know when I was going to eat again. So that was helpful for me. And anything like if there was something like, hey, do you need help getting gifts for your mom? Do you need help running errands? Do you need just like a soda dropped off at your door? Totally. So
yes, all of those things. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mel, what's next?
Number 3, invite the griever. This is one that people are so scared about because they're scared that if they even talk to the griever, either they're going to set them off or they're going to be offended or something terrible is going to happen. But that's not true. We actually want to be invited. That doesn't mean we want to actually go and show up, but it means a lot to us that we get invited. And not only inviting us, but inviting us over and over and over again. You might find that you've invited them 20 times and you might want to give up on the 20th time, but maybe that 21st time they're ready to be able to leave the house and to enter a social situation. Social situations can be scary, especially for the holidays where most likely people's normal lives have not been disrupted as much as the grievers. So it's hard for us to watch people that have normalcy going on when we are in destruction.
Yeah. And I would just add that when you invite them, make it an open-ended invitation. You know, we would love to have you. We understand if you don't want to come. And even if you commit, if you change your mind, there's no pressure. You don't need to bring anything. You know, we would just love to have you.
What's number 4, Anita?
Number 4 is to support them in their holiday decisions. We talked about how this is a big experiment and they have to kind of figure out what their holiday is going to look like. And they might keep everything exactly the same, or they might change it like drastically. And sometimes people even choose to not celebrate the holidays. Now, where we get into sticky wicket here is that might affect you because you want them to participate in your plans, or you might be, you might have a tradition with them and you want that to continue. So you kind of have to put yourself in the back seat and just say, whatever you choose to do, I will support you as you try and figure out what your new rhythm is going to be for the holidays. And, you know, even if it seems weird or it doesn't seem like it's what you would choose, let them try it.
Amen to this. My first Christmas without Scott, I had this resolve to show up and do all the things. And I was actually really excited to participate and make food and do all these things. And I got to the day and we got to the first gift opening and I just was decimated. And grief comes out of nowhere. It's not logical. You can't find a pattern to it. As soon as you think you found a pattern to it, it changes its mind and something else will set you off. And the thing that didn't before will. It's super weird. So I would also like to add that if somebody chooses to have a different tradition that year than maybe is normal for them, and it extends into the next year and the next year, please be okay with that. It really brings a lot of stress on widows to know that we're disappointing people, but we're trying to survive. And that's the whole thing. It's not like, oh, a year has gone by, so now everything can go back to normal. There is no new normal. Is the before and the after. So this is a really hard time for us. And sometimes it takes years. And it really is such a kind service to us grievers when people in our lives understand that it's not about you and us not wanting to be with you. It's about us trying to honestly just survive and breathe and make it through the day.
Yeah. And, it might change from year to year too. What worked one year might not work the next year. You might get through that holiday season and say, you know what, we want to try something different next year. And so you just have to kind of bear with them as they figure it out.
Next, we have takeaway, don't add responsibilities.
Yes.
Please, please. We can barely get it together. If we look like we have it together, we're held together with duct tape and with baby wipes. Like we're wiping our armpits, like we're taking spit showers. I'm telling you, please don't add any more to us.
So that means that if you're having a party or you have a tradition where everybody participates, don't ask them to do anything. Don't ask them to don't ask them to bring a present. Don't ask them to bring food. Don't ask them to help in planning any of the activities. Whatever responsibilities you can take away. Don't add any more. Even if it's something that was not a big deal to them in the before, it might be a huge, huge task to them now. So don't add. And I will just say this though, if they do offer, say, what can I bring? Give them a small token thing that they can bring, and don't be like, oh, okay, they said it's fine, so I'm going to tell them to bring all 7 courses of the meal, because guess what? They might not show up, and that will be super stressful if they feel like they are responsible for those things.
Yeah, like maybe they can just bring a bag of chips. It's inconsequential. Well, to some people, I actually love chips, but that's something that's easy, that doesn't take any prep. And also, if it doesn't show up, it's most likely that somebody else will have brought chips. And so it's okay if the widow forgot or the griever forgot. We're dealing with impaired minds. And so sometimes we don't remember things. We might show up and it would be a victory that we just got out of the door and that we made it to the event. And it would crush us to know that we have destroyed the party because we forgot the 7 courses.
The ham. I didn't bring the ham.
Yeah. And if you have a question about this, I know these lists of do's and don'ts can make people feel like, oh no, I don't even know what to do, because like the things that I was thinking of is wrong or whatever, and I don't know what to do that's right. You can always ask us, say, hey, what's your stress level like? Is this going to be something do you want to bring something, or is it better for you if you just show up? Like, just ask us.
Yeah. And on that same note, ask us for how we want our loved one to be included in the holiday festivities. So for instance, my mom has Christmas stockings up of all of her kids and grandkids. And she asked me, do you want me to keep Jason's stocking up, or would you like me to take it down? And I wanted her to keep it up. And some people might have a different opinion. That might be painful for them. Do you want us to keep an open seat at the dinner table? Do you want us to make a donation to a charity? There's lots of ways to include the person. And just ask us what would make our hearts feel the best. And again, we might not know the answer, and it might change from year to year, but it's still nice to be asked for what's going to be the easiest for us.
Okay, next. What you need to know is grief has many different faces. This, all of them. So if we show up to an event and we are not okay, don't be alarmed. This is normal. Our emotions ride the roller coaster for a while. Our brains are scrambled. And it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just could mean that a bird flew across the sky and we thought that bird reminded us of our person, and now we're at a party and we're crying. Or we could be laughing and having the best time. That doesn't mean that we don't miss our person and that we are sociopaths, really. What do you think?
Yeah. It doesn't mean we're over it if we're laughing. And like Mel said, we could show up to something and be really sad. And the important thing is not to try and cheer people up, but to let them be authentic with their feelings, whatever they are and however they show up, not try and change that, or especially not ask people to put on a mask of some sort to pretend that they're okay if they're not okay, because it might be that we're not okay and we need to feel safe to show that, and safe in that environment. And on the flip side, if we are having a good time, that's okay too. That doesn't mean anything has gone wrong.
Yeah. And also, if we are doing okay, it doesn't mean to come up to us and say, you're okay, but you shouldn't be okay. So let's talk
No.
about what's wrong with you right now. Just use your empathy skills. This is all an exercise in learning how to meet a person where they are and assess what they need and to go from there. Like Anita said, it's all a big experiment. Life is an experiment. We don't know what we're going through. You don't know what we're going through. We're all in this together. So the more that you can try and see where the other person is at the time and meet them there, that's going to be your best bet.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Okay, so the next one we want to talk about, and this one might be a little too late, but when you're sending out your holiday cards, it might be really hard for the grieving person to see a happy, smiling, intact family on a holiday card. So instead of sending them your holiday card, you can ask them, number one, if they would like a holiday card from you or not. And maybe it would be wise to send them a different card, just a more of a generic card that you've written, like a little handwritten note in there. Just let them know you're thinking of them and that you realize the holiday season is going to be hard. That just might be a little more gentle to them than seeing a picture of your happy, smiling, color coordinated family somewhere doing something fabulous. And it's so tricky. I know that all of these things are sort of competing with each other, but we also don't want to be forgotten. So don't assume that we don't want anything at all, but maybe send something that's a little more gentle.
Yeah. And if one of your Christmas cards has your picture of 82 grandchildren and you're sending a card to a widow that has no children, and maybe that person wanted to have children, or to somebody who has had difficulties in that arena, maybe sending the quantity of your progeny is not the best for certain people, even though good for you. Good job. You're populating the earth. Some people don't have the chance and wanted the chance. And some people didn't want the chance. Know your audience, basically. And speaking, we like it when you talk about our person. Our person is dead. Our person does not speak anymore. And that means that talking about our person is also going to diminish over time. It means a lot to us that their name is still spoken. We can't tell you how many of our widow friends in the Widow Wives Club, in our real lives, in everything, have said, I cannot believe how I just went to this family event. I went to Thanksgiving and nobody said his name. Why? Like, did they already forget about him? And if we talk about them, it keeps them alive. There were good memories where we miss the person for a reason. So talk about the person. It's not going to make us cry, or maybe it will make us cry, but it does mean a lot to us. It's a form of acknowledgement.
Yeah. And it's really, really, really hard to feel like your person has been erased from memories. And the sad thing is the reason people don't bring it up is usually because they're worried that it's going to cause us to stress, that it's going to remind us of our grief. But guess what? It's not. It's the holidays. This is when we would have been in our families with our person. We are acutely aware of what has happened, and you're not going to remind us of anything. So say their name, talk about them, share memories, talk about the good times. And yeah, we might cry about it because it is sad, but it's better to acknowledge that the person existed than to just erase them from the planet altogether.
Yep. Because they've been erased from our lives and our daily life, and that's hard enough. So, like Anita said, it's okay to talk about them. And we have not forgotten that they're dead. When we wake up to pee in the middle of the night, we are thinking, my person is dead. You will never, ever remind us. We know at all times. So it's just nice for us to remember that that person meant something and actually was alive. We forget too, like, this is something that's normal in death. We feel like no matter how long we've been with our person, that they might have just been a memory. Like, you were married, what, 20 years? And you're like, was Jason even real? As you're looking at your 4 kids that you had together. And mine was 2 years with Scott. And I was like, did that happen? So we both had the same reaction, and it didn't matter that you had 20 years and I had 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Next, I don't know what number we're on. 33. Number 33. We want to talk about being grief educated. Now, I think before any of us go through this really heavy duty grieving process, don't realize how grief actually affects your body. And it's not in your brain, but it is in your brain. So it's a little bit confusing, but it has some real physical changes that happen that have been documented and that have been studied. And it might explain a lot of things. We're not being a jerk. We're not being, purposefully difficult, but there are some things that you need to know that go along with grief. There's a term that we like to call widow brain. It is a real thing. It includes being really forgetful, having a hard time focusing, not being able to attend to more than one task at a time. Being overstimulated is a really big issue for widows who have widow brain. So that means that when you're at a party and there's lots of talking and loud and, food and lights and all of these things, that it overwhelms our brain and we might need to step away. And it doesn't mean anything about you. It just means that we need a little bit of quiet. It's harder to be around yelling kids and, just a lot of input all at the same time. Here's another thing that's really interesting is that grief is also associated with a decrease in immunity. We are more likely to get sick when we're in that acute grief state. So we might not want to be around a lot of people for that reason, or we might find ourselves feeling ill and actually physically ill because our immunity has been decreased. Also, things like clumsiness increase. And there's just a lot of physical changes. And if you know about those changes, then you can understand that we're not just making stuff up.
Yes. If you would like to go look at some clinical studies, you can look at brain scans that are documented and researched, and it's a real thing. So our food is even metabolized differently. Our appetite changes. So think about that. If we don't have as much input into our body as far as food and nutrients, we might not have energy. Our immunity is decreased. We might be sick and with no energy and no fuel. Plus, grieving is exhausting.
Absolutely.
You're crying all the time, or you're trying to hold it in, or you're trying to deal with all of the things, all of the normal things the widow or the widower might be trying to work, and they're just trying to get through the day. So we're a mess.
Yeah. And that fatigue thing is a real thing too. So we might not have the endurance to stay for a whole party, or we might have to leave early and things like that. And again, it's not something that we're making up or just because we're jerks.
It's not because we hate you.
Yeah.
Overall, we want you to know this very, very important thing. Remember, people will continue to grieve beyond their first holiday season. It doesn't last just 1 year. It can last several. You never know how a griever is going to show up, or how long it will take, or what's going on in their life. Although the time from the death does continue to go on, it just means we're learning how to manage it better, and it takes time. We need your support. We need your love. We need your encouragement. And the more that you can understand that whatever we are doing or not doing is not as a result of you or anything like that, and it's just us trying to survive and make it through the next few minutes, the better we will feel supported. And we really appreciate those who really understand that.
Absolutely. For some strange reason, people think that grief only lasts like a year. And it is true that as time continues, the rawness does dissipate. And your first holiday season might be the hardest one, or we actually find from a lot of widows that it's not the hardest one because we're still in this fog. It's still very, we're in that trauma response and kind of numb. And so people really want to help that first holiday season, and then they tend to pull back. And guess what? The second holiday season might be harder because you're actually in your own brain now and you understand what's going on and you realize that this is the long term and they're not coming back. So just continue to support for more than 1 year. And again, the needs will probably change from year to year as we do figure out how to function without our person. But we do appreciate it when you realize that it didn't just go away after one holiday season.
If you are a grief muggle, a grief civilian, whatever you'd like to call it, please reach out to us if you have any questions. We would love to answer anything that you might have. If you know of somebody in your life that needs extra support, please send them our way. We are a support group and a podcast for people who have sustained partner loss, whether they're married or unmarried. So please reach out at widowwedonow@gmail.com. We also have a private Facebook group for those people in those situations. It's called the Widow Wives Club. It's on Facebook. The links are on our website, widowwedonow.com.
And we just want to say thank you for people who do try and support and reach out to us. We really, really appreciate that. And we will mess up during the grieving process and we'll probably say things that are unkind and rude. And you are probably going to do dumb things too, because we're just human. Don't give up. Keep trying. We appreciate your support and we love our support systems.
We do. I'm Mel.
I'm Anita. We're two young widows. We're neck deep in the holiday seasons and we're trying to help everybody figure out widow
we
do now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work. You want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks. And so you don't have to pay extra for that. And you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.